Imagine you are a commander standing on a hill, looking down at a battlefield. Across the river, you see 30,000 enemy soldiers. Rows of cavalry. Cannons. Thousands of trained fighters. Now imagine looking behind you and realizing you only have about 2,000 soldiers. Most people would think the battle was already lost. But more than 300 years ago, something unbelievable happened. A small army faced one of the most powerful empires on earth, the Ottoman Empire, and somehow won. And the reason they won has less to do with strength and more to do with smart timing and clever strategy. To understand how this happened, we need to travel back to the year 1697. At that time, the Ottoman Empire was one of the strongest empires in the world. Their land stretched across huge parts of Europe, Asia, and Africa. Their armies were famous for being massive, organized, and dangerous. One of their most feared groups of soldiers was called the Janissaries. These elite fighters were trained from a young age and were known for being disciplined and powerful in battle. For centuries, when the Ottoman army marched toward a country, people were terrified. And the reason was simple. They had huge armies. Most battles were won because the Ottomans simply had more soldiers than their enemies. When thousands of troops charged forward together, smaller armies often had no chance. But in 1697, something unexpected happened. Near a river called the Tisa River, the Ottoman army was preparing to cross into enemy territory. Around 30,000 soldiers were marching with wagons, horses, weapons, and cannons. Their goal was to cross the river and move deeper into lands controlled by the Habsburg Empire, one of their biggest rivals in Europe. Now, crossing a river with a giant army might sound easy. But in war, it can be one of the most dangerous moments for an army. Think of it like a traffic jam. Thousands of soldiers try to cross at the same time. Bridges become crowded. Boats and floating bridges get packed. Wagons carrying supplies block the paths. Some soldiers are already on the other side of the river. Others are still waiting behind. This means the army is split in half. If an enemy attacks during that moment, the army can become confused very quickly. But the Ottomans believed they were safe. They didn't think any enemy nearby would be brave enough to attack such a huge army. What they didn't know was that a very clever commander was watching them closely. His name was Prince Eugene of Savoy. Now, Prince Eugene didn't look like the typical war hero. In fact, when he was young, he tried to join the French army, but they rejected him. They thought he looked too small and weak to become a soldier. That decision would turn out to be a huge mistake. Instead, Eugene joined the army of the Habsburg Empire, and he quickly showed something special. He wasn't just brave. He was extremely smart when it came to war. Eugene believed battles were not always won by the biggest army. Sometimes they were won by the best plan. When he learned that the Ottoman army was near the Tisa River, he sent scouts to watch them carefully. Soon his scouts returned with important news. The Ottomans had started crossing the river. Some soldiers had already crossed. Others were still waiting. Their wagons and cannons were stuck in long lines. The army was crowded and disorganized. Eugene immediately realized something important. The Ottoman army might be huge, but right now it was vulnerable. Instead of waiting or running away, he made a bold decision. He ordered his army to attack immediately. Now remember, Eugene only had around 2,000 to 3,000 soldiers ready to fight at that moment. They were about to attack an army almost 15 times bigger. By normal military logic, this should have been a disaster. But Eugene wasn't planning a normal battle. He was planning a surprise attack. His soldiers moved quickly toward the Ottoman camp and suddenly charged into the enemy while the army was still crossing the river. The effect was instant. Ottoman soldiers were shocked. They didn't understand what was happening. Some officers thought a massive European army had arrived to attack them. But in reality, it was only a few thousand men. Still, because the attack came at the perfect moment, panic began to spread. Soldiers who had already crossed the river couldn't help the ones behind them. Soldiers still waiting to cross suddenly tried to turn around. Thousands of men rushed toward the bridges at the same time. And that's when the real disaster began. The bridges became overcrowded. Wagons crashed into each other. Horses pushed through frightened soldiers. Cannons blocked the paths. Some soldiers fell into the water. Others were pushed into the river by the panicking crowd. Very quickly, the Tisza River turned into a deadly trap. Meanwhile, Eugene's soldiers kept pushing forward. The Ottoman army, which had started the day feeling confident and powerful, was now completely confused. Without clear orders, many soldiers tried to escape instead of fighting. Thousands were killed during the chaos. Many more drowned while trying to swim across the river. Even the Grand Vizier, the highest leader of the Ottoman army, was killed during the battle. In just a short time, the massive Ottoman force had been completely defeated. This shocking event became known as the Battle of Zenta. And it had huge consequences for history. For centuries, the Ottoman Empire had seemed nearly unstoppable. But this battle showed that even a powerful empire could be defeated with smart strategy and perfect timing. After the defeat, the Ottomans were forced to make peace with their enemies. Just 2 years later, an agreement called the Treaty of Karlowitz forced the empire to give up large areas of land in Europe. Many historians say this moment marked the beginning of the Ottoman Empire losing its power in Europe. But perhaps the most important lesson from this battle is simple. Prince Eugene didn't win because he had more soldiers. He didn't win because he had stronger weapons. He won because he chose the perfect moment to attack. In many ways, this story teaches us something important about life too. Sometimes success doesn't come from having the biggest team or the most resources. Sometimes it comes from thinking smarter than everyone else. And that's why the Battle of Zenta is still remembered today as one of the greatest examples of a small army defeating a much larger one. Because on that day near the Tisza River, 2,000 soldiers didn't just fight an empire, they shocked the entire world. If you enjoyed this story, you'll love the next one where we explore another incredible moment in history when a single naval battle changed the fate of the Mediterranean. So make sure to like the video and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.